friends, welcome back. We're going to be continuing work on our Death Guard kill team. So last time we did a bunch of things. We applied some slight highlights to different raised areas on the models. We washed them. We washed a bunch of the metals. And now we're going to get to some of the fun stuff to make these grimy boys even grimier. So we got a few things here. So I'm going to be using Disgusting Slime for a lot of the gooey bits. There's not actually a lot. I mean, you could use this everywhere, but there's only 3 models I'm actually going to use this on. Dark Rust is going to be pretty ubiquitous. We're going to use that on almost everybody. And then we're going to be using a verdigris effect as well. And this episode, I'm also going to try out this Turbo Dork Galaxia color shift paint for our sorcerer. So this will be interesting. We're going to try a bunch of new things. And we're going to start with the Disgusting Slime because it's not very many models that need it, and it's a pretty small detail. So yeah, we're just going to dive right in. I'm going to actually use this very, very tiny brush. Itty bitty. Okay. So I'm getting just a little bit on this brush, and this guy has a few places. Right here it's colored metal, but there are little goopy trails coming off of the gun. Like a part of the cabling is leaking or whatever. And so I would like to get that stuff highlighted with this Disgusting Slime color. It's pretty translucent, but I'm putting it on fairly thick because for this purpose I don't want this to be translucent. I want this to be as opaque as I can get it. And so yeah, you see I've applied it pretty thickly, and it looks pretty good if you apply it this way. We can also dabble with using it as a wash because it has like a very saturated color, and you can already see that really makes things pop. That looks fantastic in my opinion. And you may notice his little buddy down here, his little Nurgling. This little guy is also got a bunch of kind of goo coming out of his mouth, so we're going to give him a little bit of this as well, just to make him pop a bit more. And the Nurglings and a lot of the pink bits we haven't washed. We haven't done any additional layers of color, and it shows. So they are going to be tackled a little bit more in a following step, but probably not for this video. So yeah, I'm just dotting little extra bits of paint here. I think that probably looks good for him right there. Now I know for this guy, on the end of his gun here, he's got a little bit that is dripping out of the barrel. Camera's having a hard time focusing on that, but we're going to do our best. I imagine, just due to how translucent this is, I think you would probably want to actually have base coated the slimy bits with a white or a lighter color. I just happen to have them as black for a lot of these just because that's what happened. I primed these black, and I honestly didn't know what I was going to do with this stuff, and so we're just kind of learning as we go. And I could have gone back and primed those in a white, but look at that. You just apply it a little thick, and that already looks pretty good, honestly. Now, look around his suit here. I know that he has, a couple little drops. These are pretty subtle. Honestly, I think you could probably leave these and no one would even notice them. But I figure if I've already got the paint out, I might as well do it. I can put a little bit more dripping out of this tank. And I feel like this is a situation where this kind of paint is definitely a less is more situation. I think you could go to town and really put a ton of this on, but I don't think it would look as nice. There we go. So yeah. Yeah, and so I'm going to focus on just getting this, the disgusting slime on these guys, and then we'll move on to the next step. So, for our next person, we got this guy. Now for this guy, he's got a little Nurgling on the bottom here with like some kind of weird flesh gun that's shooting gross little worms. And so I'm actually thinking about kind of covering those worms with this slime, which will just give it a little bit of a pop. And well, I'm gonna be honest, I don't love that, but I think it's okay. This little guy up on his shoulder pad, since he's kind of just hanging out, I might put a little bit inside the palm of his little stump. Just for, you know, some visual interest. And looking around this model, I don't see a lot of the drips and goop. Like a lot of these other models, despite the fact that they are the faction of nasty lads, not all of them have the little goo everywhere. And just taking a quick look at some of our other little friends here. This guy, I don't want to do the goo on, because he's got a lot of Nurglings and tentacles and worms, and I think that we're going to have to do a lot more to make this guy look good, and I think that just overdoing it with a bunch of the slime is not going to actually look very nice. I do think we will do a little bit on this guy, though, the sorcerer. So for him, there's this worm that's kind of vomiting up a bunch of smaller other worms. And I think we're going to just put some of this goo down here. And I'm kind of okay with this not being perfect coverage, because we are going to touch up some of this stuff later. Just cleaning my brush a bit. This is just a little disposable brush I got out of a kit. I'm going to try to use it as much as I can. I don't like the idea of just throwing something away needlessly. But yeah, so I guess the next step we're going to do, because this is going to take quite a few layers, is we're going to try this Turbo Dork color shift paint. I'm super excited to try this. I haven't really given these a try. You can see I just broke the seal on this. And the instructions are you're painting over black. Ooh, that's very thick. You paint over black, and it has the instructions right here. You have to apply it over a black undercoat, and you have to paint 3 to 5 thin layers with a hand brush or airbrush. I have an airbrush. I don't use it very often. I kind of prefer painting by hand, so I'm going to do that. So I'm switching out my brush, and I am thinning this down a fair bit, because this came out surprisingly chunky. In general, your paint should not have the consistency of porridge. Just going to go ahead and throw that out there. So this is thinned down a bit. I'm going to get a little bit more water. Okay. This is looking more workable in my mind, so I'm going to load up my brush, and we're basically going to paint all the stuff that's still black on this model, like the flies, the magic coming off of the staff. We're going to paint it with this paint. And I'm probably, well, I mean, we'll play it by ear. We'll see how it looks after 3 coats. But I'm inclined to try to do the 5 coats that they recommend. I mean, it could be 3. Maybe 3 will be enough, but I really want to like give this a good shake and like really test it out, because I know I've seen a lot of people like talk about how much they like these paints, and I want to try something new, and this is kind of a fun thing to experiment with. And who knows, if it works out well here, I might get to use it for some other projects I got coming up. I'm trying to be careful to not get too much on the plague sensors, but I'm also kind of not super worried about it, because we're going to be doing a lot of effects paints on these as well, and we're going to cover up a lot of that. Yeah, I kind of like that purple color shift paint for this, because my hope is it'll make it look kind of like a warp magic kind of thing. Okay, we're going to spin this guy around. We're going to try to get the back of the staff. And, you know, we'll be careful, but you can see I'm also being kind of quick. We're going to have to do 5 layers of this, and we're going to be touching up all the little metal bits up here, so if we have to do a little cleanup, I'm not afraid of that. I'm going to get a little bit more water, because yeah, that really did surprise me with how thick that paint came out. I've never used a color shift paint, so I'm not entirely sure what to expect. But that's part of the fun, you know? We're going to explore some new stuff. That's one thing I'm kind of excited about for this YouTube channel, is it's encouraging me to break out of my hobby kind of, you know, doing the things I traditionally do in the hobby, and go ahead and try some new stuff. And get a little bit more water. I'm gonna mix this up here. Now, we had talked about previously doing his wings like this, and so I'm also going to paint the wings in this color shift paint. The wings are clearly designed with like a pretty heavy trim, so you could do, you know, the typical like kind of brass or copper trim on this, and I'm not going to. I just want to do it in a solid color shift paint, and we'll see if that's a good idea or not. Who knows? And so I'm going to kind of paint the tops of these wings. I'm going to try to get as much of it as I can from the front here. Let's get over to this other side. This other side is pretty hidden, the back part of them. But I am going to try to get a little bit of paint on there, because, I mean, it's a little bit visible, but not too much. That's already looking kind of cool, but we need to let this dry. So we are going to switch off to the next thing, and we'll be kind of juggling. I'm hoping that this paint will stay pretty fresh while we do the next step, which is dark rust. And I should specify that I did shake these beforehand. I have a little vortex mixer. You don't need a vortex mixer. You can totally just use your hand, but if you got a vortex mixer for cheap, I do recommend. They are quite nice. Okay, so I got some dark rust paint here from Army Painter. Oh, there's some purple here. You know, we'll do that after the rust. I forgot that there were some little magic bits on a couple of these other guys. Not very much, but a little bit. So basically anything here that has got the copper color, I'm going to put this rust paint on. Just really go to town is what I'm going to try. And we're going to see how I feel about it when it's done. This is also part of the reason where earlier on I told you not to worry about like the coverage for this, because we were going to apply washes and we were going to apply other effects over a lot of these metallic surfaces and kind of grime them up. I want to put a little bit on his little pauldron here, a little vambrace, whatever this is called. I'll put a little dots of it on the chainmail for his tabard. A little bit on the iconography. I'm not going to worry about the trim too much. I'm mainly just focusing on the bigger pieces of metal. I might put a little bit on the chest here. On this, like, I guess this would be called like a gorget. I hope that's the right term. I think so. And then we're going to put some on these little plague sensors on the backpack. We're just going to daub them with this rust paint. And my understanding is this kind of dries. It dries matte, and it gives kind of a rusty texture, which is what we want. So I put it on the knife, put it on the mace, put it on the plague sensors. I left most of the trim because we've already done some washes on that, but we will do some verdigris on those as well. So I'm going to do that. Actually, you know what? I stand corrected. I'm going to put this back on. We're going to wash that effect paint off. And we are going to get some of this color shift paint and put it on these little plague sensors, which have, I mean, it's most likely some kind of plague gas, but it's also, it could be representative of like the magic of Nurgle, whatever that would look like. I'm sure it wouldn't be a shiny purple, but I do like the idea of the shiny purple as just like a warp magic kind of thing. Okay, so just a little bit on that. So we'll let that dry up. And also, one of the nice things about this style of paint is, like, this is almost dry, this first coat. So I'm going to leave that. I am going to let it try to dry up more. And we're going to keep going with the rust. We're kind of doing 3 steps at a time. That shows you what it's like inside my brain. Whoa. Just going to go ahead and throw my paintbrush. So for this guy, where we want to focus the rust is, I think I want to do a little bit on the bell. And a little bit on the plague sensor that's on the icon. And you know what? I'll do a little bit on the rest of the metal. Just a little bit. I'm doing it pretty thin. I'm not trying to go too crazy. We're going to do more washes and stuff over here too. I'm trying to be careful not to hit the worms, but we're going to be touching those guys up as well. So I'm not super worried about messing them up a little bit. This knife, I'm just literally marinating the whole thing. So, and we'll get the back side even though it's less visible. And yeah, I'll do a little bit there. I might put a little on the pauldrons. I'm kind of just picking and choosing places on this guy. I'm going to put a little bit up near his neck. I'll put a little bit on this icon. But I'm not really trying to cover necessarily everything. And I think that that's okay. Like, you could cherry pick just a couple of little places like this, like little chainmail. Just going to daub that all over there. It makes sense that that's a little rusty. These guys are not known for their pristine war gear. And the little backpack, it's very clear, to me at least, I didn't wash this guy because this metal is way too shiny. But that's okay. We're fixing that right now. So we're going to apply that rust there. We'll let that sit. We're just going to keep on trucking. We're going to go to our next one. Cleaning my brush out. Actually, I'm going to get a little bit more of that on the palette here. Hope everyone's having a nice week. And I hope that you're making time to do the things that you love. I'm going to get this knee pad here, which I think is kind of nice. I'm going to just put a ton of rust on that, on the little bell that's hanging from his hip. His pauldron, yeah, I'm just going to give it all a little bit there. A little bit on the tip there. A little bit on this little edges of the backpack. And this is another one. It doesn't look like it got the wash, but I think one of the nice things about this is we can wash this after the fact, and it's still going to be fine. And he's got a knife on the back here. I'm just going to really get a lot of rust on that, and also he's got this long length of chain here. So I'm just going to push that rust around. For this guy, I am kind of getting a bunch of his trim because I forgot to wash a couple of these guys, it looks like. I mean, in the previous video, actually it's this guy right here. He's the one that I did all the steps on for the last video, and I thought I had caught up with everybody else, but apparently I did not. Ooh, and I got a little bit on the edge of the gun here. Oh, didn't mean to touch that. Got a little bit of the disgusting slime on the brush. Okay, let's get some more rust going. So this guy did get washed, and you can just see, like, it's a darker tone for the backpack. I actually think it looks pretty nice. But we're going to put rust all over it. These guys wouldn't be Death Guard if they weren't just covered in rust. And you can see like how nice like a sepia wash over the metallics look. It's just, it really adds a lot. And I'm just daubing some of this rust around that. A little bit on the grenades. I'll put a little bit on the pauldron as well, on the trim. A little bit on this iconography. And I'll do a little bit too on the top of his head, in front of the respirator, and this kind of gorget or whatever you want to call it around his neck. And a little bit on the chains hanging here. I want to put a little dot of it around each of these rivets, around his like cod plate or whatever you want to call this. And I think that's okay. I'll put a little bit on the pauldrons here. And we'll see if this is a good idea or not when I'm done. Because, you know, sometimes you just don't know. But that's okay. You just got to experiment. And for these guys in particular, if you really think about it, it's like, what's the worst that can happen? You make them too gross looking? I mean, you know, I don't see that as a problem. You made them grosser. You deserve a medal. Okay, we're going to get some on the chain here for the tabard he's got. I'm trying not to absolutely flood it, so I am just kind of moving things around a little bit. I'll get some on the spigot down here that his little buddy's holding on to. Some of the exposed metals. Yeah, I'll just do a little bit here. I can tell right here I got a little silver on the edge that I didn't mean to. Guess what? It's gone now. I covered it in rust. And that's what I was talking about, you know. We make little mistakes, but it's ultimately not a problem. You can just kind of, like this backpack, again, I didn't wash this one yet. We can wash it, though, after we do this step and it's dried up, we'll just put some rust here to get started. And then we'll give it a sepia wash later, and maybe a dark kind of black wash like a Null Oil, or like a watered down Basilicarnum Gray, or there's a bunch of different colors you could use. I'm not really a person that's going to tell you should use a particular brand over another, with maybe a few exceptions, because I think that most paint ranges are actually pretty good. Like, I'm not going to recommend you go to the dollar store and use, you know, the craft paint that they sell for like $4 or whatever, because those paints, you're going to have a hard time. I'm not saying you can't paint with them, but it is going to be a challenge, because those tend to be, I mean, they're cheap paints, which means that they have a low pigment density. And, well, I mean, among other things. Also, you don't know what kind of additives and mediums they're using for the paint, and it could just have a really undesirable finish. And a lot of these paints, like the Army Painters, the Citadel, AK, Vallejo, all these different brands, they all have, like, they're formulated for doing this kind of painting. And, you know, all of the ones I've used have been really solid, so compared to like other paints, it's just a huge step up. Okay, we've circled back to our little guy. Now you can see for some of these areas, like right here where the goo we had painted went over a metallic, it actually has kind of a candy apple green look. So what you're painting that disgusting slime over does really matter. And like painting it over black made it end up drying kind of a darker green, which I don't actually hate. I think that that's fine. But that's just kind of an interesting observation in terms of like how this is working. Okay, we're putting some more rust. Just rusting it up. Put a little bit on the back part of this gun and a little underbit. This guy did get washes, so I'm going to not do too much, but I'm going to do a little bit on the pauldrons, a little bit near the neck. This pauldron's got a little bit on the edge. I'll do a little bit on the backpack. This guy has these clusters near whatever these little protrusions are. I'm going to dump just a bunch of rust right on those, because I imagine that they're the kind of thing that excretes, you know, fluids that will then rust and cause other parts of this to get all grody. And I'm going to punch some into the little nooks and crannies. Even though we did wash this previously, we're still going to get some stuff on here. Okay. And then I'll do a little bit more on the edge of this pauldron. Get some on the iconography of the leg. And yeah, we'll let that dry. That's going to do what it's going to do. And I think at this point, we're ready to go back and do another coat of the purple. So we're going to get our brushes cleaned up. We're going to get a little water. We're going to mix a little bit more of that together to get it nice and loose. And let's grab our wizard, or sorcerer, or whatever. So this is already pretty vibrant. But I'm gonna follow their instructions. Like, I mean, I could totally see leaving this the way it is right now, but I want to like try the full process, follow their instructions. Don't assume that I know better, and just, you know, make sure that we try to get the best result we can with this. I'm also going to need to do the rust on this guy's stuff, but I'll do that after I get this next layer, because I want to get this started since we have to wait for it to dry. which admittedly doesn't take super long, but I want to make sure that I'm leaving the space for that to set up. Get some more water. I want to loosen this up a bit more. All right, let's get the next layer going. Yeah, I think this does look pretty nice. I'm excited to see if it becomes more vibrant as I apply more layers. But I guess, you know, time will tell. We'll find out soon. I need to get the back of this here. I'm going to be honest too, part of the reason I wanted to color shift all of this is because I didn't feel like painting all these like little flies and weird maggots and stuff in here. I'm like, this is just magic now. And it is. It is magic. And it's magic I don't want to paint. So we're going to leave that. That looks pretty good. So this guy also very clearly doesn't have the wash done. So that's okay. What we're going to do is we're just going to get, I mean, actually we have some dark rust already out here. So we're going to apply that dark rust. And we're going to be pretty generous because we have not washed this guy yet. So I'm going to put it on these little things around his neck. I'll try to get on the edge of some of these details, some of the details near his leg, the little balls that some of these flies are holding. The ones on the staff, I'm actually going to go pretty heavy. Because I kind of like the idea of the magic being really shiny and then these being like very matte as a contrast, like just because of how like grody they are. So I think that could be kind of fun. And then we're going to do a little bit around the shoulder, some iconography on his shoulder pauldron, the little bits on his backpack. I'll just kind of gently slop this everywhere. And I'm trying to not ruin our previous like work that we've done, because we are getting close to what I am going to consider the end for these. So I am going to try to be careful, like, but I'm also still saying that we can be a little generous with ourselves, a little kind, and not worry if we do make a mistake. Okay, so we did that. Now we should be in a good position where if we go back to that first guy that we did with the mace. So it's dried up a little bit, but I don't know. I don't see a huge difference. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the verdigris, because I want there to be more of a punch here. Like, I want there to be more kind of visual interest. So I'm going to get a little bit of water. We're going to thin this down a fair bit. This is very chalky, and you need to water it down, like, significantly. You're going to need to water it down a lot more than you might think. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of start putting this inside those. I'm going to put it near the base of the ball, down each of the chains. And I'm just kind of putting it all over, but I'm being a little erratic with it. The reality is like the verdigris would probably be appearing in places where water would pool. And so like in the little nooks and crannies are probably more likely to be where they would appear. So like on this gun, I mean on this gun, on this knife, I'm intentionally putting the verdigris in the little divots. And also, if I see any like notable divots on any of the like brass parts, I'm going to do that as well. These little plague sensors, I'm just basically putting it all over these guys. Because again, we're going to clean up a bunch of these, so I'm not super worried about them being like a little over the top. And then for the armor here, I'm going to try to, and this is like not a perfection, like not a perfect science. I'm just going to try to put little dots around the rivets. So I'm just gently tapping with one end of my slightly busted brush. You can be a little messy with this. It doesn't have to be perfect. I probably could do a little bit in the base of these like studs for the armor. I'm going to try to get these neck rivets, the rivets around the helmet. And yeah, so now I'm just dotting the verdigris around each of the rivets. This is going to be a little excessive, perhaps, but I think it could look cool. I do feel like this is also a thing where it's like less is more, but also do what you want. You know, if you're having fun with it, go for it. I'm going to put a little bit inside the dots of this little thing, this icon. And then, yeah, what the heck, I'm going to put a little bit around each of the spikes on this backpack here. And it's not like a perfect science. I'm not trying to make it as accurate as humanly possible. I'm just kind of applying it where I feel like it would be interesting. Okay. Ooh, yeah. And as this dries, it gets real chalky. So I'll show you how we kind of go to the next step with that once we get there. But we're going to keep going, and we're going to keep doing... I'm going to put a little more water on that. Let's get to our next guy and give him a little verdigris. So, just going to dot the rivets. Again, if we're a little messy, it's okay. I'll put a little bit on the chain, but not a ton. I'm going to put a little bit in the symbol, a little bit kind of near the base of this thing, a little bit in between the chain links for his tabard, a little bit around the skull, and a little bit around that as well. And honestly, this is kind of a part where you can just have fun with it. Like, find what you think looks cool and just play around and don't be afraid to experiment. You know, you might make some mistakes, but like, if you're having a good time, is that really a mistake? You know, if you're enjoying this process and you're getting to try something new that you haven't done before, I think we should do that. We should allow ourselves that. I don't know how I want to do this sword. I kind of like the idea of the edges of the sword being sharp so they wouldn't have as much verdigris. Verdigris is like kind of where it's had time to like really sit and marinate and get really corroded. And let's just do that. Get this little cup that the guy is sitting on. Maybe a little bit there. Yeah, okay. Oh, and this little metal thing back here. We'll get some of that on there too. Really, it should primarily be for like the kind of copper looking stuff, but I'm not gonna worry about it too much. And we're gonna go over this again too. Like, this isn't the final form for any of these guys. Okay, I'm gonna get some more verdigris. I want to kind of smudge it in some of the bits for this weapon. A little bit on the iconography on the forearm here. I'm going to tap some of these rivets. Tap some of this in here. And again, I'm just kind of thinking about where the water might pool, like near the tip of this pauldron, or get caught around the rivets is kind of a very common place for us miniature hobbyists to put the verdigris effects. And I'm just going to daub a little bit on this bell. Put a little bit inside the holes for the plague sensor. Inside that. Actually, I probably shouldn't do it for there, but in the plague sensor on the back, I didn't paint the bronze or copper color, so I'm just going to paint it all verdigris and pretend that I did. And then we've got his tabard. I'll do a little bit on the stave, a little bit in the nooks here. Yeah, like you could argue that this doesn't belong on the kind of the gunmetal colors, but it's fine. I'm not going to worry about that. We're painting miniatures for a game about, you know, plague marines in space. I'm just going to have fun with it. Okay, got a little bit more water, cleaned out my brush. That is important. My brushes are in a rough state, but if you wash them frequently, it will make your life a lot easier. So just my friendly advice to you. Wash your brushes when you get a moment. I think I got a little too much. But whatever, that skull's going to look nice and grody when it's done drying. I'm just going to go in here and try to get, again, we're going to do the same thing for everybody. We're just giving them little dimples, not dimples, rivets, and putting a little bit of the verdigris on those rivets and trying to make it look interesting. I'm also not a Death Guard expert. I do like some of their stuff, but like I think these are probably some of the first ones I've like really tried to paint to any kind of standard. Like I've dabbled, like I've got a couple little, like I have a Nurgle team for Blood Bowl, which I really like. But in terms of Death Guard, I haven't like tried to like really paint to a high tabletop or even like just a medium tabletop. Let's be real, these are probably more like medium tabletop standard, and that's okay. You know, again, it's about having a nice time and, you know, just enjoying yourself, enjoying the process. I'm gonna put some more around the rivets, and we're just kind of marking around where we think stuff is going to go. Gonna get a little bit more water. I'm noticing it's feeling a bit dry. And I'm just going to rinse over that. And you can just kind of wash over a bunch of this stuff and be really heavy-handed. And I've honestly seen a bunch of people who do it that way, and it can look really good. But when you do that, for some people, it's like you're spending a lot of time and energy up front to make sure that where your starting color will lean towards looking good as verdigris, and like they're layering color in a particular way. And you know, I might want to try that at some point. I don't often do a lot of rusted metal, but it could be kind of a fun thing to explore more of. Although, if I'm being real, after I finish these guys, I kind of want to give it a break. I want to. It's been fun playing with them, but it'll be nice to go to something else and, you know, painting not a bunch of goop and rust and everything. I was listening to the news about some of the kind of leaks that they've had for AOS, and it's pretty exciting. I'm very jazzed that Ogre Maw tribes might be getting a little bit of a refresh. That model range is very old, and it really needs it. And I like that. I'm kind of a... If I had to pick one of the Grand Alliances for AOS, I'm definitely in the Destruction camp. I really like almost all of those factions. For this guy, I'm just kind of put a little bit around here. Part of me is just like, what if I just do this whole thing? Like, just really put it on the underside of the weapon, where a lot of the moisture and stuff would tend to accumulate as it's rolling down. Because I feel like that's probably an interesting way to do this. And then I'll do the rivets as well. Let's do that. Oh, I noticed he's got some goo around his eye that I missed. Well, you know what? We can maybe touch that up in just a moment. I'm just going to dot all these rivets and have my camera out of focus. It's good. And then I'm going to just keep a dotting the rivets. All right. Let's get some around the base of this here backpack. Get it in some of these bits that are really corroded. Yeah, like inside of this little area, this recess, like I imagine this is the kind of place where a lot of water would be pooling up and causing a lot of corrosion. And a perfect location for a bit of this. And I'm going to put a bunch here where we stacked a bunch of that rust effect earlier. Okay. And yes, I'll do that. I'm going to rinse this out. Get a little bit of water. We're going to get some of that disgusting slime in here. It was starting to get the film on the top, so meaning it was drying out. But since we did see some places that we missed here, we might as well use this, right? I poured a little bit too much. Actually, correction, I poured a lot. I poured way too much. And I own that. So yeah, that looks pretty good. Just have him like kind of a little bit running out of his eye. I might actually do a second coat on these parts coming out of the Nurgling's mouth, just to see if a second coat really helps it punch up that color a little bit more. I want to do the same for the drips coming out of the gun. And I'm going to do another one for the barrel here, where it was like actually quite dark. I suspect it's still going to be pretty dark, but I'm hoping that giving it a second coat might punch up the intensity of it a little bit. Okay. And do I want to touch up any of these things on the back here? Not really, but I'll give them a little bit since I've already got the paint out. Okay. You can see, like, as it's drying, like, this is getting crusty. And that's what we want. We want it to look like that. And we're going to do some washes over it, so it'll help a lot, I think, to sealing the overall kind of aesthetic. So let's go back to our sorcerer. Because you know what time it is. It's time to get a little bit more water and mix up this oatmeal that is the color shift paint. I'm very curious like what the medium is for this. Okay. So these purples are looking very shiny. But guess what? We got more to do. They said 5 coats. And boy howdy, we're going to give them 5 coats. Alright. It'll be interesting when I'm watching this back just to see if it's really visible between each coat. What a difference that makes, like each subsequent coat, like is there a noticeable increase in intensity? Because it's hard to tell when you're kind of in the moment just doing this. So, okay, I'm going to try to get these wings back here. Yes, yes, yes. Get the tops of the wings. Get some more water. Try to thin this out a bit more. Let's get these wings going. Anyways, yeah, for Age of Sigmar is probably my preferred setting. Like, I like the fantasy stuff most. I like 40k as well, but if we're talking about Warhammer, I tend to like fantasy. I like some of the older stuff, like Mordheim, and I like Blood Bowl. I've played Blood Bowl for years. I played in a league for quite a few years. It was a lot of fun. I'm also very excited about that, the new edition of Blood Bowl. It makes me want to go back through my collection and try to work on a bunch of teams that I have not finished. I think I've got the gnome team I want to do, the ogres. I've got the Norse, and I've got, who else do I got? I feel like I've got a handful, because for a while I was trying to, I had aspirations of running a small league myself and making it easy for people to get into it and start playing, because I think Blood Bowl is a fantastic game. And it's kind of a lower commitment in terms of money and time, so that's nice too. This guy's got a little area down here where we had his little friend vomiting up maggots. I'm going to just give that another little a serving of the goo, because why not? We're touching this guy up anyways. So at this point, we've done 3 layers of this color shift paint, and we've got some rust and some verdigris on basically everyone. However, this guy does not have his verdigris yet. So actually, I think I need to put a little bit more. This is just about dried. Ruh-roh. Oh boy. Oh, that was way too much. Well, you know what? That's okay. Get some water. Yeah, I definitely don't need this much verdigris. Dang. Well, it is what it is. 'Twas the tism, my lord. Not that that is surprising to anyone who has interacted with me at all. A little bit on the face. I'm just kind of getting it on the rivets again, on these plague sensors, areas where I think that water is going to pool. Some of these, oh, this nook would definitely get some in there. And like I said, with a bunch of these, like with these plague sensors and stuff, we're going to come back and we're going to juice these up a bit, so I'm not too worried. Let's go ahead and just put a little bit in there, in between some of these wires, near the little fan bits. Although I think the fans might not inhibit, but minimize some of the verdigris that you'd have developing because of the motion, I'm assuming. Though what do I know? I'm just some guy. All right. Let's do this. Let's get a little bit more verdigris. I also realized I didn't paint this part of the trim for this guy. Guess what? It's all verdigris now, baby. And as a result, it's almost like that never happened. Also, it's in an area that no one's going to see, really, so I'm not too worried. Okay. I'm cleaning my brush off. That's going to take some time to dry for that next coat. So now what I want to do is I want to get some washes going, because a bunch of these guys very clearly did not get washed. Which, considering that they're all nasty lads incorporated, makes sense. So yeah, I'm probably going to use this sepia tone. I apologize for the vibrating noise. That is my vortex mixer. I honestly, best 20 bucks I've ever spent. Just really, I mean, that's a terrible exaggeration. It's not the best $20 I've ever spent. But it is a very nice tool for doing painting. If you don't want to shake a bunch of paints all the time, it is quite nice. That is a much more reasonable, less hyperbolic response. Okay, so now we got this sepia tone here. And I'm literally just I'm gonna slop this over a huge portion of this miniature. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. And you might be asking yourself, Disco, why? It's because they're nasty lads, friend. They're nasty. And also, it's going to add a lot of depth. It's going to make this look nicer. It's going to change the tone. I want these guys looking like they just marched out of a raw sewage plant, you know? Like, I want them to be gross. Like, that is their whole deal. That is literally their whole deal, is they're gross. Oh, the back of the head I didn't really do. I'm going to try to not let it, like, I don't want it to pool up too much, but we do want it to get into those recesses and those nooks and crannies. I'm going to get a little bit on this horn here, just a little bit. Like this chainmail, get it on this sword he's got. Get it on the skull back here. That looks really good when you let it get into like the eye holes and the little nubbins that it has. Now we're going to put this all over the backpack just to... It'll make the verdigris, like it reduces how sharp that verdigris looks like because of how dry it is. So we're going to like really take that down just a notch, but it's still there. It's still going to add some color. It's going to still add some visual interest. It's still going to make it look like it's decaying and old and, you know, kind of disgusting. So yeah, we're doing that. And then I'm actually going to just put it all over him, I think. Because like I said, like they are gross. Like, and I think it's going to punch some of the colors down a little bit, which is nice. Like, I actually kind of want that. And I mean, you can do a clean looking Death Guard if you want. I can't tell you what to do. I can merely suggest. So yeah, I mean, paint it how you like it, ultimately. I'm doing it this way because I kind of like them like this. If I'm going to paint them and they're going to be gross, I'm going to make them real gross. Okay. And I bet you're asking, well, what about the little pink guys? You know what? Maybe they get a little bit too. I was just thinking about that. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to... Because I was thinking about washing them with like a pink wash or like a shade that is kind of in that same color family. And I think they may get something like that as well, but yeah, no, I think it's totally fine to give them a wash of this. I am kind of quickly looking to make sure that it's not pooling up too much anywhere. Like there's quite a bit back here, but corner of that shoulder pad had a little too much, I think. Okay, yeah, I'm okay with that. So this guy with the little kind of very vibrant green goo, I'm going to try to avoid that, actually. Like, I don't actually want to... I would like to leave that vibrant if I can. So I'm going to do my best to not get that on... not get this wash on that part of this. They say as they almost certainly cover it in wash. I'm being a little careful about this, but I'm trying to not get it. I'm probably going to get a little on it, but it's not the end of the world. These little guys have shallow details, so you kind of want to be careful that you don't flood them with whatever wash you're putting on them. Okay, we're just going to keep washing. And like after this step, like you could technically... Oh, I got some on the face thing. That's okay. You could technically stop after this step. I mean, really, you could stop at any of these steps, truly. Like, you don't have to go down a prescribed route of, well, I gotta follow this 20-step plan and paint it exactly the way, you know, person X showed me how to paint. You can do whatever you want. It's your miniature. It's kind of like how I think that, you know, if you start reading a book and you don't enjoy it, I don't feel like you're obligated to finish it. You could just put it down, you know. It's your time. It's your life. And it's the same thing with, you know, our hobby. Like, if you're doing this for fun, or you're doing it because you enjoy it, and if you start getting to the point where you're like, you know what, this is okay, and I'm okay with this, I don't need to do more, then don't, you know, just allow yourself that. I think that that's an okay thing to do. I think that is an okay and a very reasonable thing to do. I maybe was a little heavy-handed with the verdigris on the back of this thing, but that's okay. We're going to fix it up a little bit. To tell you what we're doing next is we'll probably do a little bit of a dry brush or edge highlight on some of this to get a little bit of that metallic shine back, especially since we've covered everything in rust and we're really hitting it pretty hard. So it would be nice to have there be some kind of highlights present. We also need to do the bases, and I'm going to be honest, the bases I'm probably going to keep very simple. I'm thinking about applying like a textured mud that's going to hide some of the little greebly bits, which they're there if you want to paint them. I'm not going to tell you not to paint all 8,000 little maggots and worms that they put on the base, but I am not going to do that. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. Just tell them Disco told you it was okay. Disco said it's fine to not have to expertly paint every small greebly bit on your base. Because I'm not. I'm actively entering the era of my hobby where I am removing details from some models, which I think have too much going on. And I know that that's kind of the hotness right now with some people. But honestly, like I do genuinely like doing that for some models. Because I think some models, like, they just got a lot going on, and I don't always want to mess with it. And that's okay. I can actually show you some models that I've done that with pretty quickly here after I finish getting this guy gooped up a bit. This guy has already technically had a wash, but he's getting another one because that's how we operate. This was the guy that we did initially in the video for washing, and I said that we were going to give him another wash, and here we are. We're kind of putting this back down a little bit after it was kind of brightened up by some of this stuff. And you're probably saying, wow, this, like, it's really messy. Like, this is really, I feel like this is obscuring a lot of your details. It's doing some of that. It is. The thing with wash is that it is going into the recesses, and as long as you're not flooding the miniature, and you're kind of pushing the paint around so that it's not sticking in giant piles, it'll be okay. Like, don't worry too much. You'll see when this dries, it'll be just fine. All right, this guy is almost ready. I just need to get a little bit on this backpack here. Okay. Now I'm just looking for any places where too much is pooled up and kind of stabbing it to make sure. Yeah, I'm okay with this. Okay, I'm going to wash my brush out because I haven't done that in a bit. Yeah, I can show you, I've got some miniatures here that I've done that too. And, like, this is pretty common. Like, these are the Space Marines from that Kill Team set. You can see I didn't quite base it perfectly. There's still some blue showing through. But, like, the little iconography they have on the chest, I actually really like. I think Pete the Wargamer is one of the guys I saw doing this first. I'm sure a lot of people do it, though. But, yeah, he removes that and some of the other little bits. Like, I would ideally probably remove the little purity seals and stuff like that, too. Because I just like the way that looks better. I think it's probably why I like the Heresy era Marines better too, because they have less adornment everywhere. And yeah, they're just, I don't know, I prefer that. The adornment is nice for really big units. Like, for, like, your centerpiece model. Like, if I'm painting Lionel Johnson or something, like, sure. Sure, that guy can be bedazzled. You can put rhinestones all over that lad, and that's fine. But I don't want to do that for every single little guy in my army. That just feels crazy to me. At some point, you want to actually play the game. Or in my case, like, just paint it and then look at it and be like, this is nice. I had fun doing that. And we're just continuing to put that sepia wash. Ooh, yeah, look how nice that looks on the... This is what I'm talking about, like when you do that base color and then a wash for something like this, like where the cloth wraps. Fantastic. Love it. It's very good. Okay, and get his little friend. Give him a little bit of that Seraphim Sepia as well. Or actually just Sepia Tone from Army Painter. Seraphim Sepia, I believe, is the Citadel brand naming convention. Which honestly, I've used Army Painter stuff for years. I really love that their new range, the Fanatic range, has just the simple naming. Like, yeah, they have the thing in the bottom right, and it's just like, yeah, these are desaturated blues, or, you know, these are warm reds, like, and then they show you, like, where on that color spectrum that color lies. Like, is this the darkest one? Is this the lightest? Somewhere in the middle? I think that that's fantastic. Like, just genuinely, I wish more painting companies would do things like that, because it makes people's lives easier. Not to mention just for people who may have, you know, color blindness of some sort, or, you know, just as an aid in teaching too. It's just like, oh yeah, like, if you want to paint in this color, you can paint with, you know, take the darkest tone of this red that you like, and the mid-tone, one of the mid-tone ones, and then one of the highlight ones. And there you go. Like, you can kind of have all the paints you need. Like, you don't need every single paint. I think that might be excessive. Although I'm not one to talk, I have a bunch of them. But yeah, like, it gives you a guide. And if you're learning how to paint, I think that that kind of thing is incredibly valuable, and might help reduce a little anxiety that some people have about how to paint or what colors to get. It's just a really nice system. I dig it. If I'm teaching someone how to paint in just my personal life, it is typically the paint variety that I will go with. Nowadays, at least. I used to use Vallejo a lot because I liked their stuff, but then recent events with them has made me reevaluate whether or not I'm giving them money. And if you know, you know. All right. Let's see. I think basically that's almost everything on that guy. Okay, we're getting the home stretch. We got 3 more. The nice thing is at this point I am basically putting this wash everywhere, so I am not trying to be too careful. We'll do some finishing touches in probably the next video. This video is we're kind of doing a bunch of the effects. We're wanting to try to get as much of that stuff done as possible. I still want to do the plasma glow for this gun. I may set that up right now as well. We'll see. It wouldn't be too difficult to get going. It's just a matter of needing to do it. But yeah, it's oh, there, the camera was not liking that. Yeah, so just, we're going to go through here. We're going to finish putting this wash on everybody. I should wash this cloak as well, now that I'm looking at it. I haven't done anything to this cloak yet. I don't like this cloak very much. I mean, there is some low areas and some raised areas. We'll go and we'll highlight this and try to make that look a little nicer in a later step when we're kind of finishing up. Okay, little guy, what do you got here? Okay. And this is a step too where it's like I was saying earlier, if you don't particularly want to wash this or whatever, you could stop at the previous step. You could stop at any time. It's all about what you want to do and how you want your guys to look. And for me, I wanted to try this because I don't often paint like this, and so for me it's kind of an exploration of something new. All right, and we are, yeah, these worms and strange little face on the base. I need to figure out what I'm doing with them. They are definitely something I need to handle in probably one of the upcoming videos, because giving this wash is going to give them a little bit more like definition and make them a little more visually interesting. But they're not doing much right here, and we need to think about what that is, what we're going to do there. I was thinking about painting highlights on them to represent kind of like the lines that an earthworm would have, because I think that could be kind of fun. And also, like, it's the kind of thing you do too when you paint like the tails of like Skaven Ratmen for AOS or Old World, or, you know, you've got a bunch of different things that look like that, where it's got like kind of like ribbed bits, raised areas that you can highlight. And those worms don't have that, so you could highlight them as though they are just a tube, and like kind of make some assessments as where you think the light would be hitting the tube that is the worm. Or you could paint some texture onto them of like those raised areas that we were discussing. And I think that that's probably what I would be inclined to do, just to make there's some, like, put some interest there. Because they are a little lackluster in terms of like visual. Their visual appearance is not that interesting to me. And I mean, that's just my opinion too. Like, I'm not saying that they're boring intentionally or whatever. It's just I didn't find them as interesting or exciting to paint. Unlike this little guy, I love him. Look at him. Just, the camera's not going to like that, but look at him. Just look at him. Just hanging out. Just having a good time. I love that guy. He's so stupid. It's so good. I don't know how anyone can not like how goofy these are. I mean, I'm sure if you have, like, what is it, tryptophobia or whatever, it's probably bad because of all the weird fly imagery and open wounds and unsettling shapes and generally difficult to look at. Like, I get that. They're not for everybody. Not everybody finds, like, little gross body horror monsters cute, but I do. Alright, let's go back to our sorcerers. This is our last guy that we need to do the wash on. I'm just going to go ahead and preemptively put some more sepia tone down. And we're washing. We're washing away. Okay. It's almost like, why did I do all these highlights? It's a good question, past me. I'm just kidding. It helps. The highlights actually, you know, they're going to be brought down a little bit. They're not going to be as bright because of what we're doing right now. But honestly, it does make a difference. Because you'll see them. You'll still want to probably do some highlights after this to like bring them back up. But yeah. Okay. Really want to make sure that this strappy bit gets some shading. I love a good strappy bit on a handle of a weapon. Very satisfying. So I'm trying to not get this wash on the clearly magical part that we're doing. I'm probably going to get a little on there because I'm painting these sensors with this wash, but yeah, we're just going to get this backpack, do that. Turns out I need just a little bit more. I've probably gone too long without washing my brush here. Okay. And let's do the backpack. Okay, and the back of this leg, back of this other leg, the side of this worm, and then this shoulder we didn't fully do, or his forearm. Yeah, I think we got most everything at this point. So now we need to do layer 4 of my color shift paint. Is this paint? Ooh, okay. Is this paint still workable? Yeah, it is. You just got to get under the film that's forming on the top. Oh, I did not wash my brush well enough. Actually, I'm gonna just. I got some of the seraphim sepia, some of the sepia tone in the paint. I don't need as much as I thought I did, so I was just gonna do that. Yeah, I mean that probably wouldn't hurt this color shift paint, but I wanted to experience this as close to what they intend as possible. So this is going to look real wild, I think, compared to the rest of this guy, which is going to be really dark and gross. I'm not sure how this is going to work. Just genuinely, I'm very curious because, like, it's beautiful. Like, it's a beautiful color. I don't know that this is actually what I want for this guy. But as they say, you've made your bed and now you must lie in it. And I mean, you could go through and repaint these areas if you didn't like the purple. I'm not going to. I'm going to do these 5 layers and we're going to see what it looks like. And I'm feeling that it's kind of bright. So what I might try to do is I do like the color shift. Maybe I can like highlight it with some other purples. Like, because right now it is just color shift paint. Like, I'm not doing anything else to it. It's just color shift paint that I've layered up. And I think that there might be some value in just like I could do some highlights with another purple or something to the raised areas of that. But if it's not a metallic color, is that going to look weird? So, yeah. So this is 4 coats. Technically, this is in between the 3 and 5 that they recommend. When this dries, I'll take a look at it again and reassess. I think at this point I'm just going to leave this, but I may choose in another video to come back to this guy, and we're going to do some other colors. Because, I mean, like, for the flies especially, it does look weird having them just be this solid kind of color shift purple. And I think it might be valuable for us to, like, just put some kind of, any kind of difference into this, you know, just to make it look a little, like, less samey. So now, I talked about doing the plasma gun thing. So I just have some Liquitex acrylic ink, titanium white, and I'm going to get a little bit of that. Try not to get too much. That's probably more than enough. And put that back over here. Where's our plasma gun guy? Here he is. So, plasma gun guy. This is also something I've never done. I have never painted a plasma gun and tried to do the plasma gun glow. So I'm going to just get a little bit of this ink into the recesses of this plasma gun. And it's going to hit the kind of edges of the gun as well. Or the edges of where the coil is, I should say. And that's kind of okay, because that's going to represent some of the light that's casting off of it. But yeah, so I'm just trying to do that. And then this will dry up, and then next time we can try to do like a wash with, like, I think for these guys being so green, it might be nice to have like a purple glow. You could do a green glow if you want, but there's so much green already. I think I kind of want to do like a purple. So we'll let this do what it's going to do. And then we're going to try to add some purple and see how that looks. I've seen other people do it, and I kind of want to try that and just kind of, you know, give it a whirl. See if it's nice. I also think that this afterburner color might be nice for the tip of this. Actually, you know what? This is also going to need multiple layers. Let's see. Yeah, 3 to 5 over a black undercoat. Actually, I did not shake this. I'm going to... This is yet another experiment, because I haven't used this one yet either. I think I'd opened it, but I don't think I actually, like, really honestly tried it. So let's get this going, because we're waiting for that other guy's thing to finish anyways. This is very loose. So I'm just going to put a layer of this on. They all kind of have the same consistency. It makes me wonder, like, what kind of medium they use to do this. I'm very curious. It's also possible that I just didn't give this enough time on the mixer, and it's not fully mixed. And this might just literally be the medium just coming out of the pot. Because I've had that happen with some other paints that I've used in the past. But yeah, we'll give that plasma gun a try after that's fully dried. And I think, honestly, that'll probably be in a different video. So how we doing? Still drying? Yeah. Honestly, I'm not seeing a huge difference between the different layers. And at this point, I am right in the middle of what they recommend. So I think I am going to stop with the purples. And in the next episode, I'm going to try to figure out what else I want to do with these. And in addition, we'll probably try to tackle the plasma glow and the glow on the end of the gun. And I want to go back through and do some of the highlights that we're talking about, like just picking out a couple of areas. We also need to do something with the little Nurglings. Like I'd want to do some of the details, get some of their eyes, get some of the little, like, some of their teeth, just like pick out some of the little focal points. And also, oh, we could do this really quick before we go. Most of these guys, well, not most, but a lot of them have eye lenses. And I'm going to take a little bit of this ink and just a little bit, and I'm going to try to dot the eyes for these guys. Oh boy. Well, that's okay. Close enough. And so I'll let that go, and then I can try to do a glow with that as well. So I'm just going to see. These guys don't really need that. This guy's got little eyes. So this guy's got like little individual dots for eyes as well. So we'll get a little bit more of that ink. I'm just going to try to dot the eye. Dot the eye. Oh boy. That is terrible. Let me get some water. We're going to try to fix this. I had too much water on my brush. Had too much water. But that's okay. I just got my water, cleaned out my brush, got a little water, and then I soaked it back up with the capillary action of the brush. So now I'm going to clean the brush again. We're going to dry it. And I'm actually going to take one of these small brushes. We're going to get that dried a little bit. Get a little bit of that white ink. And let's see. I'm just going to try very carefully to just get the center part. Well, honestly, that's fine. It's not as bad as the last thing. And then we got one more guy. This guy's got the visor. I don't know what mark of armor this is. But yeah, I kind of like this visor. It's... Ooh, yeah. I'm really glad that they did that. Heck yeah. So that's one of the things I like about the ink is they can be kind of like a wash, but this is more highly pigmented. And so we let that dry, and then if we want to make a kind of a glow, we'll be able to put that over that lens, and that should look pretty nice. But yeah, I think that this is where we're going to end the video for today. If you're still watching, thank you very much for hanging out with me. I hope you had fun doing your hobby or just hanging out. And if you liked the video, please give it a like and subscribe. And I hope to see you next time. Okay, bye.